processor in my phone, and I have been hitting those ranks. I've been winning games.
You've been hitting skill shots as well.
I have. I can close my eyes and my skill shots auto connect. You see my snipe on Granger just now?
Okay, that's a good point. That is a good point. But with the draft already starting, we are seeing A8 Esports deciding to be actually given the blue side this time, while GameLab is going to be on red side. That's going to be a little scary here, but let's see what A8 Esports' overall composition is going to be. Kadita first ban. That's interesting.
Yeah, it has been quite popular among some team, right? Kadita roam with the Petrify, and think A8 Esports just wants to play it safe. Though we haven't seen much of that from GameLab, I believe. They have just been too comfortable with the choices that they've been given. Maybe towards A8 Esports, there's more of that reserve that GameLab has. The glue being the third hero to get taken out.
I'm honestly happy that GameLab got rid of Joy, because there's changes to Joy. And I know that she has from 5 dashes to 4 dashes, but there's a lot of the micro mechanics where like sometimes she gets more damage if she hits it on the beat. She gets a shield if she hits it on the beat as well. And her ult also gives him some extra magic resistant armor. That's a lot of information that I was not ready for cast with, so I'm glad they banned it out.
You would be happy to know that we haven't really seen Joy at all.
That's true.
So the changes don't matter as much. Overall, A8 Esports still coming through with the bans that we've seen across the entire group stage. We still get the Fanny ban, a GameLab taking out 1-1, but I'm glad to see that there have been minor adjustments to the ban. We're seeing a lot more Kadita showing up in the ban list.
Yep, a lot more Kadita. But that opens a lot more options, right? Usually I would expect to see Fredrin, I would expect to see Valentina as the first pick, usual openers for teams, especially when they're on the blue side. It's just too flexible. And there we go, Kaja at the very least GameLab gets rid of.
And that means that A8 Esports now have to make that choice. Do I want the Fredrin? Do I want the Valentina first pick? I think statistically, we've seen more Fredrin opener compared to that Valentina, though you did say that that Valentina is good on that blue side. We'll see if A8 Esports will take that.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're comparing it to something like Fredrin, I think it's definitely a pick on Fredrin. Wait, actually, now that I think about it, even the patch affected Fredrin as well.
Yeah.
His ultimate doesn't do as much as you would like it to, especially if it's not empowered. So, and not to mention the Twilight armor change. I don't know. I don't know whether these teams are prepped for this. I know I'm not prepped for this.
Maybe we'll see Rose Gold Media. We haven't seen that item for a long, long time.
Dude, I'm more worried about the Sea Halberd. I think that change is really going to hurt Fredrin. I don't know whether or not it will if he decides to get Twilight armor, but it's a good time to check it out.
Yeah, off broadcast, you mentioned Brody, right? That is a hero that might benefit from it. Our Brody Connoisseur isn't playing today, but we get the Farmers and Arlot on the side of GameLab. It's kind of another version that GameLab has shown us throughout the group stage. They are just really comfortable with these scrappy fights. Coincidentally, it's a situation that A8 Esports have gone through multiple times.
Yes, absolutely. So the real question is, how is A8 actually going to deal with it? Now, I've seen a couple of teams, especially all around the world, actually try to 1v1 with this Arlot. We've seen Martis in the EXP lane, which is, well, I've seen it. It's kind of strange. I do think there are better options out there. One of them is the Edith.
The Edith?
It's pretty decent. It's got a pretty decent matchup. The only mechanic that you have to worry about is when you're trying to do that that ground pound. He just dashes behind you and you completely whiff. That's like the only thing you have to worry about.
Speaking about Edith, we haven't seen much of Edith overall, even in the group stage, right? We've seen a lot of Martis in the jungle. That has been a favorite for most teams. But for A8, just gonna go with the Melissa, press an ultimate, you are able to push that Arlo away. But I would say the interaction is pretty much mutual. Arlo also has a method to get you out of that ultimate. But the Grok, virtually unstoppable.
Yeah, and I think, Grok is a good flex pick just in case GameLab try to, switch things up with this Arla. No matter what, Grok is always going to be a good matchup against Arla, mainly because of his anti-CC. Now, Moskov gets locked in for the side of GameLab. That's kind of interesting, right? Because if we're talking about ways to actually push Melissa out of her ultimate, Moskov actually has an opportunity and a tool that could be very helpful for the team. GameLab
actually has 3 methods, right? With all of their starting heroes, there's a skill that allows them to displace this Melissa. And A8 Esports, now they have a composition, at least with this opening pick, to protect this Melissa, to act as this brick wall. And now it's just to keep GameLab away. I think a lot of focus is going to be on this Arlot and if he can get access to that backline.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that mages were not locked in within the very first phase of the game. So now we're seeing a bit of a different draft here from what I'm usually used to. It's going to be the Yves and as well as the Xavier getting banned out for the side of GameLab, Martis, and then the follow-up from A8 to finish things off here. What are they truly worried about? They've already locked in the Arlet for the side of GameLab, unless they want to throw him into the jungle and lock in Lapu Lapu. That wouldn't be too bad overall, and that does shake things up against A8.
Is there an Arlet jungle? I have not seen much of it.
Yeah, nobody really wants to put him in the jungle. That's why I'm thinking like GameLab. GameLab feels like the team that
if there's a team that would do it, right?
It had to be. It had to be GameLab.
Probably GameLab.
Like, I don't expect Euphoria to do something like that.
Yeah, we see the Lancelot ban, but that still leaves Link on the table if GameLab really wants to commit to that full backline dive. They haven't really revealed who is going to stand in front and deal with the Fredrin and the Grok, but GameLab so far with the farmers and in that composition, I do expect them to have at least someone that can lead the team in that 5v5. Valentina, though, will be the pick.
Okay, so that means Farmus is going to take the support position here, while Valentina is going to be the main mid laner for the team. All right, so I'm thinking about enablers, right? And the enablers, there's no immediate effect. Nothing's really standing out to me so far other than the Moskov and as well as the Valentina, both of which actually having some decent forms of CC, but I think it's going to be the Shadow Stampede into the Ghostbusters that's really going to enable someone like Takanaga to be able to jump into the middle of that fight and at least try to make a play on this Arlet, because I'm not seeing any enablers for the side of GameLab. Unless they last pick Akai, then sure.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well, right? They are putting so much emphasis on Takenaga's hero towards the very end. So far, we haven't really seen that front line. I feel like Akai is probably the most direct option. Edith already taken for AA Esports. It is a hero that you did mention just now, and now we get to see it. That Edith against Arla matchup. Sicilian gets picked for A8, and GameLab looking for the Hanzo to close it out. This is GameLab, in their comfort zone.
Yeah, Hanzo is a great way of actually dealing with the Melissa overall. His abilities cover a wide area, and at the very least with the knockup, it can start messing with the backline. You can zone out a majority of the people. So, therefore, GameLab playing a very greedy composition overall, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to be Arlot, the man himself. We're going to have to take a quick look at his emblems.
You think this is a show of strength from GameLab?
Possibly. It could just be raw confidence. A little hard to say, but hopefully A8 are here to try and disappoint.
Oh, that kind of goes back to what we've discussed a bit, right? A8, a lot of responsibility, a lot of weight. I think that the expectations, best case scenario is A8 wins. Worst case scenario is that A8 draws at least one game from GameLab. Someone needs to show that GameLab can bleed. No teams have been able to do it yet. In A8 Esports now, they have that torch being passed to them.
Absolutely. I mean, both counterparts, whether it be GPX or A8, they want to take out the Filipino counterparts on the opposite end of their bracket. But for now, the games are starting with A8 on the blue side, GameLab on the red.
One of the standouts to me is Richie Sicilian, because we don't see Sicilian much. Farsight isn't picked, and I do like how GameLab did ban the Xavier, so you prevent that lockdown that stops all these engages. But overall, with the Sicilian, it seems like A8, they are not really too worried about that late game phase. It's more like getting there. And for GameLab, they are looking to end it as fast as they can.
Let's not forget that Kesu has a very important job here. Kesu has to stop the aggression coming in from GameLab, and he needs to make sure he's not feeding too many kills over to GameLab as well, because we should expect the GameLab to be the aggressors in this situation. And look at Takanaga, absolute disrespect here, walking into anywhere that he can to steal away as many buffs, but he clears the jungle just so fast.
If you're Arlie, you have to be a bit worried. Bottom side, 2 versus 1 gang. Havos shouldn't be able to get out of this. Esports want to look for the first blood. Havos, flicker! Just get knocked up nonetheless. Ozzy draws that one.
Bit of disrespect coming out of Havos there. He really wanted to win that 1v1 matchup. He didn't consider the jungle pathings on either side. Or maybe he thought he could get a kill before that. But this is what I want to see from Kesu. He's making sure that these choke points and his crucial parts of the map have some form of vision.
Yeah, Arlie was about to get dive, but GameLab decided to pull back. And I do like the adjustment from AA Esports. They completely ignore their top side and just send Fredrin down. So far the read from A8 has been great.
Yep, the goal lane is going to be extremely important here, but at least A8 have their signature protocols. I mean, look, Edith is already making her way up towards that Tribe Rush, and Aizawa forced the flicker.
And that's the punish you want to look for if you are A8. We talk about a lot of that early game focus, but gonna be a bit of scuffle on that turtle pit. Fondia dropping low, gets the knockout. Richie coming through. They get the taunt onto Dortmund, but AA Esports haven't found the damage yet. Wall charge is there. Hervos getting protected by the Call Alter. GameLab just strikes back and gets a kill on Ozu.
Good layering of abilities coming in from GameLab here. Things were looking a little grim until the Call Alter. Oh, Fonder absolutely with that. Don't worry, he's just warming up. He's just warming up.
Oh, you could say that he's predicting the dash. If he Eagles dash that, maybe.
No, there's
We're
no
thinking
way
2
here.
steps ahead.
That's the thing, right? You don't know whether or not they're going to do it for sure. I don't know. I personally think that it's a little too deep there. And Takanaga, he should be able to get out of this. Oh, actually.
Yeah, they're sticking onto him. Ozu has his numbers. They get the
no.
taunt again. The wall to funnel him through that brush.
Oh!
Oh, the sweep! But from her boss, keeping Takanaga alive, and they can't get it. Well, in the end, they do. With that Edith, her boss now in danger, knocked up, and that's a double for Fondia. AA Esports continue to fight. The wall doesn't stop Dortmund though. In the end, they still get 2 kills.
Oh man, GameLab's playing so disrespectful, but A8 and their protocols are making sure that they're covering all their corners and they're getting first rotations. They're making sure that mid priority is always in their favor, and that's why Grok is just such a good support. Even if you have a weak laner who can't push as fast, they can do things like this. Walk up, get some free damage, walk away without anything to worry about.
And at the end of all that, both teams still have almost equal net worth. So if you're GameLab, you're not too worried, but now you get to see what AA Esports is capable of. A lot of that displacement, and Dortmund, sure you have the Call Alter, but I think one thing that GameLab needs to keep in mind is that you don't really have that toughness compared to AA.
Absolutely, but we're seeing that, you know, they're using the Spear of Destruction coming in from Moskov to cancel out Arfi's recall, and now they're pulling all their resources to the top side, knowing that he doesn't have anything. They could potentially set up for a dive.
Again, the wall is so huge from A8, and that's going to secure the kill onto Yuktizi, followed by Dortmund. Takinaga can't even get Ketsu with that. They were able to keep Aizawa in place for now. Richie looking for an angle, doesn't get the clip, but A8 finds 2.
I don't think they should keep pushing their advantage here. Look at bot side. They've already got the proxy going. Ketsu, unfortunately, isn't responding to that. That means it's going to be a lot of gold falling into the hands of Havas.
AA Fondia putting his body in front, but GameLab adamant to keep this tower alive and healthy as much as possible. In fact, they are able to clip onto Arlie, pull him back. Takinaga coming through, and Aizawa will be the one that finds that kill. Kai, and Dortmund, he is kind of far in front, and GameLab gets away nonetheless.
Not 100% sure how to feel about that one. I mean, Arfi should not have died there. Richie!
Oh, flicker forward into a wall charge. They were able to secure Yuktizi in the end. And still, we are looking at similar goal net worth for both teams. GameLab happy with what is happening so far, and they even get the tier 1.
Yeah, it's about to change here because both tier 1s go down. GameLab unfortunately didn't invest as many resources, and yeah, they lost a couple of people, but at the very least, A8 Esports got the worst part of the trade.
Yeah, they definitely did. GameLab very confident, looking for the contest at Turtle. Takinaga just shows up, easy retribution. Fondia left alone to dry. Ozio has already used that appraisal grab, so he's going to go down to Takinaga, followed by Fondia, who has the shield up, but not for long, as Havos follows up, and the entirety of GameLab has shown out. A8 still wants to fight this. They're able to get rid of Takinaga. Dortmund is the next on the list. Castle sticking onto him, and that will be a double for Richie, but GameLab still fighting on. Havos sweeps them off their feet, and GameLab finds a late team wipe.
Huge play coming out from Havas here. Now, the interesting thing, he's not taking Concussive Blast, he's going straight for it to Nasty. He's making sure that he dishes out just enough to keep himself alive. But look at Yuktizi, they're just spreading their resources. GameLab is squeezing value after value play from each of their heroes.
By the way, this is just 6.5 minutes in. We are looking at GameLab really pushing the pace and doing exactly what this draft is intended to do. We can say that they're playing in a slightly disrespectful manner, but that's how good GameLab are. And so far in this group stage, they have not been breaking much of a sweat.
Absolutely. I mean, they disrespected A8 before. I would say that instead they started pulling back. They realized, okay, maybe we're giving too much leeway over to A8. So instead, they're making sure that they're highly prioritizing and making sure that the resources invested in certain lanes are going to be pretty straightforward. I mean, look at this. Right now, if we're talking about Havas, he's pretty much the exact same gold, if not just a little bit behind Yuktizi. And both of them had died twice.
And that's kind of like the thin margin that we discussed pre-game, right? How does AA Esports exploit that? Ozio getting gone on by Yuktizi, and he knows that he is going to be terminated. killing spree already for Aizawa. Havos in the front line. Kesu just dragged back by the Shadow Stampede. Fondia shows up behind, misses the knockup. GameLab, now they're just going to commit fully. Can anyone catch Yuktezi? Fondia certainly does. But look at the battle line completely split apart. It's Aizawa on a mega kill streak. And GameLab just running down 8-8 in front of their base. Absolute disrespect from GameLab, and they just keep going. 3 kills.
Ozzy was, he was just so out of position there. He's just so out of position. I don't know what he was hoping for, hiding along the river brush instead. He could have just sat by Pixel Brush. He could have sat nearer towards his side of the jungle, but instead he wanted to greed out here, thinking that GameLab would not check it, but unfortunately they did, and they continue to punish. 6K gold lead, 8 minutes into the game, and now with this lead, I think GameLab are going to slowly start making their way to get into that rear naked chokehold by taking away resources, especially when it comes down to playing around Havos. GameLab now have an enabler.
Both side lanes have already been exposed. GameLab taking the tier 2 on the top and the bottom. And Kesu, he really wants to be able to do that job of keeping GameLab away, but he's taking so much damage, and it's all just from Havos playing all these disruptions with the dashes, with the knockups. They now isolate him. Havos is going to flicker to safety. AAEs but blocked by their own Grok wall. GameLab looking to re-engage. Takenaka just shows up. Kesu able to get away with his life. Sliver of Health. Fondia, though, sacrificed to the Wolves, and GameLab just continues pushing the lead.
And while this is happening topside, you can already see that Moskov has just been hard shoving, making sure that AA Esports do not walk out of their base or look for any kind of flank angle from the top side.
We're looking for thin margins for AA Esports, but it seems like that window has already closed. In under 10 minutes, and those arrows from Yuktezi just making life incredibly hard for AA to even defend the turret. Kesu, he might lose his life in the process. Just not able to put his body in front like he wanted to. AA Esports can't find a way to engage.
A8 has just run out of time, and I think they have no space to breathe as well. GameLab taking all the outer turrets, and in 35 more seconds, that's their win condition. When they have the Lord pushing down onto the side of A8, it's going to be really, really tough because GameLab is about to hit their next item, Power Spark here, but majority of the carries already have 3 items building into a 4th.
It's just like how Aizawa even feint the recall in front of Kesu. He knows that he is untouchable.
He is very ahead in this game. 7K worth of gold. He's been farming really, really hard. But if we look at the build coming in from Havos, and as expected, he is going to be the major tank for the team.
This is the unstoppable force from the side of GameLab. 10 minutes, Lord has spawned. GameLab beeline straight towards that objective. And this is how fast they are trying to close out the game. We talk about how GameLab has played, on average, the shortest games in the entire group stage, and to do it, so deep into the bracket against a team like AA, it's incredibly impressive.
It is. It is extremely impressive. And now, let's see how they close this out. I mean, wait.
They're able to stop the recall. Arlie completely trapped. Can AA get Arlie out? Well, it seems like it's impossible. Aizawa has already gotten that kill. AA Esports on full retreat mode, keeping Richie alive. Kesu and Ozil will do the deed. Takenaga getting chased down by Fondia, and that's a pickup on that mid lane. But GameLab, they are still continuing to chase. Havos is sold from Aizawa. They whip Ozil deeper into that lane and finally secures that knockout with a mega kill streak for Havos. Meanwhile, Yuktezi had just taken the top inhibitor.
Yep, once again, Havos, as I mentioned before, expressive guy. You can tell by his gameplay alone that he wants to end this quick. And even with GameLab, they're just synchronizing their waves so well, now pushing for an inhibitor.
This might be the final stand for AA. They get the knockout onto Aizawa, but you're looking for damage from the side of Arlie, and so far there hasn't been too much. GameLab have already taken out the bottom inhibitor. Look at Yuktezi! It's going straight for the crystal! AA, they want to stop him. They should be able to do that. But it's taken a lot of damage in that base. The mid inhibitor also barely standing.
Oh, Yuktezi, you dirty boy. You dirty, dirty boy. He tries to go for the back door. It's very clear that he could have killed Fondir whenever he wanted to, but decided, nah, I'm going to try for the crystal still.
We said that this game is going to be kind of the opening statement. How strong of a message would GameLab want to send? And I think it is pretty clear at this point.
It's very, very clear. With an 8K gold lead 11 minutes into the game, if they wanted to end it, they absolutely could have, or just develop it into a 10K gold lead, and at that point, 8-8 is basically out unless GameLab blunder. But I don't think they're going to blunder too much at this point, considering that they've been getting away with so much. Now, previously, with...
they checked the brush with the Arlo ultimate. the presence of mind that GameLab has. We might not have much time to talk about this game, but if you're AA, what is the backup plan you're looking for? What is the way to come back? Aizawa almost hitting that ult. They pin Fondia into the wall, and yeah, that's the kill. Yukizi, well, we don't even have time to talk about backup plans at this point. Yukizi just gotten that kill onto Fondia.
It's do or die for AAD Esports. And GameLab are just not giving them any opportunities as they're already pushing in. They know that Lord is on their way, but if they can bait out a fight from 8-8, that's already a huge win.
You gotta hold on for 15 more seconds if you're 8 at Esports, just for some signs of life in this game. The wave's not really synchronized, so GameLab only will have that mid-wave to deal with. 8 at Esports have enough methods to clear that out.
Yeah, their high ground defense is pretty okay here, but you can tell that GameLab, they want to go for this Lord, but they also don't want to let A8 out of their base. And I think this is a very good option here. At least make it seem like you're interested in this fight, that you're purposely trying to bait out this fight against them. And that way, they're a little hesitant to actually walk up to things. That's as important as a Luminous Lord, but A8 making a smart decision, walking as a full squad, checking brush by brush on the top side first, going into the lane, and then my guess is making their way through Tri-Brush into the Luminous Lord.
How confident is GameLab? And so, I think GameLab, the respect is being shown as much as they're playing aggressively. You can see that the reserve from this team. Dokman does get pulled back, but that's pretty much it. This Lord secured by GameLab and A8 on their final stand.
Oh, that's not good. It's not good. Nobody was able to check. Nobody was able to walk up. GameLab just casting a very, very wide net to ensure that the top side is under control. And now A8 Esports are in a position where they have to win the next upcoming fight. If not, GameLab is going to close things out with their 10k gold lead.
Next fight only to stay in this game for a bit longer. You know, GameLab, they have all the cards needed to close out game 1. This is their game to lose for sure. In the event that AA wins the next fight, what is the backup plan though? They have lost everything in the base.
I mean, even AA is just gonna have to play it one step at a time, one pick off at a time. With the waves kind of synchronized, not exactly synchronized, but let's see how GameLab actually wants to initiate.
Looking to delay the Lord as much as possible. They got the taunt out. Kestu is in the front line. Dokman falls away. Not dead yet. Fondia losing a lot of that health bar. AA Esports juggling pretty well, but they've already lost Ozo and GameLab now. They pounce onto AA. Looking for the conclusion to game number 1. There's 33 deaths on the side of A8, but GameLab actually not able to close the game. Richie holding on. Fondia beside him. Dokman has the immortality, but Takinaga going for the end. Can he break the crystal in time? Dokman also helping. Takinaga knocked up, but Dokman, he is doing God's work, and GameLab pushed through 15 minutes in game 1.
GG, well played. Going over to GameLab. They're closing it out with very thin margins, but still pulling it off, showing off that Hanzo is still the pub stomper that we expect. Man, Arlie just did not have a fun time running away from Hanzo's ghost. Oh.
That's gonna haunt him for a while. You say Hanzo is a pub